From breakthrough strategies to game-changing innovations and cultural shifts, you'll discover the lessons that drive real impact, and we'll dive into the moments that changed everything. Welcome to The Missing Piece with April Reed. Today's guest is Bech, a former LSU Tiger and New Orleans Saints wide receiver whose career has been built at the intersection of elite performance, leadership, and human potential. After 8 years in professional football, Bech went on to spend 14 years as a strength and conditioning coach in the NFL, including 9 seasons with the Dallas Cowboys. Today, he serves as the director of strength training protocol at OxeFit, where he helps bring advanced training, technology, and coaching insight together to support performance at every level. Bech brings a rare perspective from the field, the weight room, and the future of fitness technology. And I'm excited to talk with him about what it really takes to build strength, discipline, resilience, and a winning mindset. Welcome, Bech, to the show.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me. Thank you very much.
Of course. I'm excited to hear more of your story and get to know you. For the listeners that don't know you or know your story, would you mind just introducing yourself and sharing more about your background and even what you're doing today?
Yeah. Grew up in South Louisiana as kind of a slow late bloomer, you would say. So in athletics, I was always pretty good as a young kid, but then I had like a lull in my development, which was kind of a critical time to be noticed by colleges and, recruiters. So I had to walk on to LSU. I was very small. I would say I had the trifecta: skinny, slow, and weak. And it's not a great combination for a wide receiver, but I would say I was a 5-star recruit in things that didn't require talent. So that was my edge, my ability to catch a football or to identify defenses or kind of my conditioning capacity. I was really, really, really good at a lot of things that you can't measure. And then once my body caught up to all my intangibles, I was able to be pretty successful and was a team captain and MVP at LSU, and then went undrafted and went to the Jacksonville Jaguars initially, was released, kind of got injured, released, and then spent a while kind of figuring out, am I going to be able to do this on my own, working out, running out of money. And then like right at the cusp of, okay, I really got to make a decision. The New Orleans Saints called just out of the blue one morning, said, can you be here tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, I'll leave today. So 4 years later after that, I was able to, become a fully vested veteran and full pension and, wound up coaching with the coaches that coached me years later. Cause, my motto is kind of every day is an interview. You never know whose path you're going to cross or who you're going to interact with that could somewhere down the road, you could help each other out. And that's kind of what happened. I wound up coaching with the same kind of tree that were my strength and conditioning coaches for the New Orleans Saints. And that turned into a kind of a blossoming career, which ultimately led me to OxeFit. So it's been a really cool journey. Kind of a rare one, but one that was not always, butterflies and rainbows. There were some tough times and some decisions I had to make and some breaks that thankfully God was kind of guiding me through it and got me to where I am now. So
I love that. So, there's just so much to unpack with that. It's incredible. The story is very inspiring, especially like you're saying, you weren't, the football star in high school. It's not like everybody was trying to recruit you, instead getting that walk-on position. Do you feel like a lot of it was like mental fortitude for you or the discipline to believe in yourself? Take me back to those moments of, did you believe in yourself? Did you know?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I did. I got injured senior year in high school and had a surgery kind of at an inopportune time. So I was, I was a really, really good high school player, but to be able to go and take your game to the next level and have a scholarship is, it's very difficult to do. There's statistics and percentages that are, against the odds. Most guys don't get to have that next level, but I was able to. But yeah, I was mentally mentally tough as well as physically tough, but I was, injured, but I believed in myself. I had a good support system. My parents, came from an athletic family. I had a good friend of mine that had just gone to LSU on a scholarship. And he was like, man, come up here and walk on. He goes, you're as good as these guys. And that kind of helped me with my belief system. So it was kind of a combination of things, faith in God that I'm going to get there. I just have to, sometimes the easy road is not the best road, and it,
Yeah.
it teaches you along the way whenever you have to kind of carve it out of the mountainside yourself.
Oh, I love that. That's good leadership advice right there, in the sense of, people that are listening, that maybe the path didn't look what you thought it was going to be, but
Yeah.
can you carve it out yourself, and can you, move the needle in the favor of what you believe, and trusting that God
Yeah.
has a plan if you believe in
Right.
yourself as well.
Like the
That's all.
caterpillar in the cocoon. You can't open the cocoon and free it. It's got to struggle and it's got to build its wing. It's got to, fight its way out for it to really, have the future it deserves. So kind of equate that to life and the struggles. And a lot of people that I know that were really, really successful had somewhat humble beginnings and were able to then, once they face adversity, it was like, man, this is a piece of cake. I've been through more than this. So struggles are not always bad.
Do you feel like that resonates with you? Is that, facing those adversities is also what gave you that inner strength?
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't say I always consider myself an underdog because you don't get to pick your height or your size. I'm about 6'2", and I mean, I'll never play in the NBA, but I was able to have a good soccer career in high school and baseball and football, and I saw football as really the best chance to have a continued career, and so I kind of put all my eggs in that basket, and thank goodness it worked out.
I love it. That's awesome. It's just encouraging. I think people need to hear that, especially the ones that are having setbacks or do have injuries, or do, maybe not even the young ones, but people right now currently in their career, when there is something that feels like a setback, maybe there's a promotion around the corner on the other side. So I love
Yeah, and with
that.
social media, you kind of get to see people's journeys. They'll show you like here's a walk on. You'll see these team meetings where the coach will call the guy up and he's like, hey, I know you have a job on the side. You go to bed at midnight. You show up early. You do this to this. We're going to put you on scholarship, and they all celebrate. So, kind of get to see a lot of the journeys and kind of the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for a lot of guys. And obviously, a lot of people it doesn't work out. Hopefully, with the struggles that they can go through in athletics, can be a springboard into the corporate world, and maybe they can
Yeah.
become a CEO or a manager or some successful businessman. So athletes don't always have to succeed in athletics. It teaches you the
Yeah.
struggle and builds the foundations for you to kind of be successful in any area in life.
That's so true. So after the New Orleans Saints, what ended up leading you into strength and conditioning?
Well, typically in my field, all the players that become coaches typically have injuries that they go through and they rehab and they become, this kind of a stepping stone building block. Probably led me to strength and conditioning as my own personal injuries and struggles and having a rehab from certain things. As I got older, I would go through, rehab and trying to get back to my old form. And, maybe I could, maybe I couldn't. And then after my playing days, I had a pretty good foundation of what it took to go through some of these injuries and, working with some of the really titans of the industry, like I was blessed to have done. Um, those kind of trades kind of carried over into I was able to see these trends and identify certain movements like, okay, I remember this. I went through that, or I saw a guy go through this. And it makes it a little bit easier to identify so I can preempt issues that, some of these other guys that are trying to get to the same level or going through, or guys that are already there. So I had kind of a firsthand experience from being there and doing that, and then being able to help future athletes as well.
I love that. Um, I know you're so humble. You're saying, the ability to work with all these titans, but, to reiterate, that's the Jets, the Jaguars, the Cowboys. Never mind being a player on in and of yourself. It's really incredible. But sitting on the other side, not only from the player, but then to the coach, um, obviously being brought to OxeFit, it was, made sense. So let's talk about OxeFit. What is it? What is the business and what do you do?
OxeFit is, we have two strength training devices. They're kind of, lack of a better term, strength racks that are not driven by gravity and plates. We have a electromagnetic resistance, and which means we can dynamically change the weight throughout the range of motion. So we can make it heavy where you're strong. We can make it lighter where you're weak and accommodate for fatigue. We can see what your balance is under your feet by using force plates. We have a camera system. There's data. So any asymmetries we can identify. If you're looking for force production or power or velocity or just range of motion, we have
Mhm.
probably 300 or so exercises programmed in. We give you the ability to program your own exercise in. There's a lot of data. There's a lot of content on our smaller device. There's Pilates and cardio and some gamification. And we have assessments on both devices to where you can go through a strength assessment, range of motion assessment, balance assessment. So really we can optimize human movement and we can validate it through data. So I came here right as I was leaving the Cowboys and potentially going to work with the New York Giants. And I had four daughters and junior high and high school. And I'd already been to the New York kind of sports atmosphere. And I was like, you know what? This opportunity is going to allow me to stay home. Really, the Cowboys facility, I could probably see it out of my window. So my commute didn't change at all, as opposed to moving to New Jersey with the Giants and Coach Garrett. So stayed here is a really kind of divine intervention. We had a software mogul, a mechanical engineer from NASA, and I was brought in to kind of mold it together. Like, okay, we know how this machine's going to work. How should it feel? What capabilities? What's the feedback? What's, the data set that we want to produce? So as a player and an athlete, and I had a strong network of, strength coaches and people. So getting into the NFL, I was used as kind of that gateway to access kind of my Rolodex of people that I played with, coached against, and the relationships that I'd forged along the way. So it was a really, really good fit at a really good time. So
Yeah, I love that. And like you said, being able to kind of stay at home and not have to travel so much or pick up your family, move again.
yes,
So
definitely.
is OxFit available to anybody? Or is it just for like
Yeah, yeah.
special?
Well,
Yeah.
we have two devices. We have a bigger kind of a performance commercial type rack, but that's
Okay.
also been purchased for people's homes. And then we have a smaller one, which is kind of the thousands and thousands of homes, but also is in like the LSU's, Ohio State's, Auburn. So
Okay.
there's a crossover with both. But yes, I mean, oxfit.com, you can go see both devices. I mean, it's really, really incredible. I golf a lot now that I'm an ex-athlete. A lot of ex-athletes golf a lot. And I train on it for like rotation and balance and stability and mobility. And I hit the ball as far as I have now. I'm 54 years old and I can still hit it like I was when I was in my 20s. So to train the body and to have the mobility and to be able to measure it and to progressively overload it is really a key figure. A lot of people go to class and they'll kind of activity and they'll go back and they'll go activity. But unless you kind of build muscle burns fat 24 hours a day. People are like, oh, I want to do cardio. It's like, well, I'd rather look like a 100-meter dash guy as opposed to a Kenyan marathon runner. They don't have much muscle. They have a huge aerobic capacity, but
Mhm.
to do strength training and to progressively overload it is really the key. And I mean, there's studies about longevity and leg strength on how you live into your to the quality years into your 80s, 90s, even. So, not that you have to
Yeah.
be. It's not about bodybuilding, but it's about movement, building muscle, and maintaining that. Because sooner or later, once you age, I mean, just a fact, you're gonna, old mentor of mine saying you have to work twice as hard and get half the results. And when people look in the mirror, they don't see results. They're like, oh, I got to do something else, or I got to take some
Yeah.
supplement, or I got to. So it's difficult to maintain it when you get later in years, but that's the most important time too.
Yeah. So that was the question I had. You just mentioned longevity. I've had several guests on the show that have longevity practices, or like they used to work in the ER, and then they realized that they really, they were helping patients, but they really wanted to make a difference in their life. Would this be an app or, device that longevity medicine physicians or practices should be using or could be using in addition to what they're doing?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
our probably biggest new market has been in the longevity space, in the biohacking
Okay.
space,
Yeah.
because you can do 3 sets of 10s with dumbbells and barbells, and like the next day you maybe do 3 sets of 12 or do a little bit heavier or do 4 sets. So there's ways to increase it. And you never really, and it's kind of like a gut feeling. It's a guess, and life happens along the way. You travel, you fast, you have different medical issues, and then you try to kind of stay consistent. Well, our devices are really data driven. And we also are coming out with an app that kind of intertwines with the app. I mean, with the devices. So it's it's not necessarily a fitness app, but people have wearables. They have Aura rings and Whoop watches and sleep number beds and all these trackers that typically don't speak to each other. They're just kind of in silos. And knowledge is only power if you can, act upon it. So what we're trying to do is build an app that's taken all of life's hydration, sleep, resistance training, travel, um, heart rate variability, how you sleep, what your goals are, what your time of day you like to work out, and put it all into one where we can start to give you insights throughout the day. So if I go to Chat GPT and ask something, it doesn't know Brett Bech. It knows somebody just asked me something. Here's the answer. But this app takes all this information and you can give it medical history, blood work, all the stuff that you've been through. What are your goals, your experience level, and then start to feed information. And then it's going to start to give you insights along the way. So it's almost like having the foremost expert in every category you can think of at your beck and call, but specific to you. So that's I think what the difference is, as opposed to a Google search or a Chat GPT or some kind of Gemini. That's not really,
Yeah.
doesn't know who I am, doesn't know my background, history, injuries, doesn't track that and keep that. So it's kind of a well-rounded app that's going to say, boom, you can take a picture of my meal. I can count at the end of the day. I mean, selfishly, I'll say, what's my total caloric intake? And if it's below a certain threshold, I'll have a peach or some cereal or some kind of or some kind of snack at night. But if I'm at a certain point, like, I'll push it a little too much, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I won't do it. And I see my weight starting to kind of follow along what my expectations are. So it's pretty cool.
That's amazing. Some out of curiosity for like myself, if can I like download the app for me personally and use
Yeah.
it? I can.
It's called Ox AI, OXEAI, Ox space AI. So it's an AI app, but it's OxeFit is the name of our company. So we just merged together Ox AI. So it's an app. It's free for a period. So jump on there, take advantage of everything. If you don't like it, hey, we haven't fulfilled or checked the box that you need, and feel free to move on. But I think people that once they engage with it and download it and use it for a couple of weeks, they see the value in it.
That's amazing. That was my next question, was how much AI is a part of the data and the analytics behind it. And I know you're obviously probably not sitting on the IT side of the
Yeah, but
equation, but I imagine that a lot
it's
of it is,
huge. Yes,
yeah.
yes, it's huge, and it comes and it surprises me because I'll tell it one time I had an ankle surgery in the year 2000, stiffened my ankle, and I had toe surgeries in 2020. And when I talk about mobility or doing a golf warm up, it'll say, because of this, your toe surgery and that, your psoas probably a little to your quadratus less. So do some side, and I'll do some stuff. And it's like, I would have never thought about that because
Wow.
this takes it and it categorizes it into, previous injury history, what my age is, where I'm going. So it's all AI. And, I'm learning terms like large language model, which is
Hmm.
kind of something that's evidently pretty standard, but it takes all that information. Like, again, I think the most important thing is it's specific to you, what you've been through, what your goals are, your schedule. We're all living life, and it's not like Monday through Friday, exact same thing. Monday through Friday, exact same thing. There's days where I traveled to where I had a workout scheduled and I couldn't do it. So I'll move it back and I'll push it and then I'll, forget about it. But it'll kind of cater to, since you did this, we'll move it here, we'll push that back and tuck this in, maybe do a couple less sets, but more exercises. So it supersets thing. And it's really just a really smart kind of companion, if you would.
I love it. I'm downloading it after we finish this.
Please do.
Because I'm similar. I'm 47 and it's all of these, conversations that you begin having on what does longevity look like? What does the biohacking look like? What does the strength training look like? And, to this is your world, but to someone like myself that it's not my world, I'm like, where do I start?
Exactly.
And you just said, start here.
Yeah.
Start here, get to know it, understand it, and start somewhere.
It,
It's
start,
like,
it starts to learn you. Every conversation you have, it starts to know what time you start to go to bed. Okay, did you can say I'm going to read the Bible before I get. And it'll remind me like, oh, okay, and I'll grab my Bible. It's just things that, or drink water, because throughout the day it's like, okay, I've
yes.
drank 6 ounces of water and it's 3 p.m. and I wonder why my neck's cramping up. It's like, so
Ugh,
doing stuff that, it's like, hey, remember this? Hey, don't forget that. Hey, and you can kind of control the notifications. So it's not going to be all these pop-ups throughout the day. So it's kind of like, it's just enough to kind of nudge you along into doing the things that you should be doing. Cause really, like, if I would have never heard the term fasting or intermittent fasting or water fasting, I would know nothing about fasting. It's just
mm,
what you hear from people. And some people's like, oh, it's terrible. Oh, it's great. Don't eat eggs. Eat eggs. Well, it's going to kind of say, this is why or why you should or shouldn't do it. And it's going to give some disclaimers like it's not a medical practitioner, not going to guide you through heart arrhythmia. It's not going to say do this. It's going to say always consult a physician, but here are some things that you should do or could do in the meantime, or this could help it. But it's always going to obviously give some disclaimers that we're not here to give you medical advice. Like, oh, I think I had a stroke. What should I do? Not to that extent, but it's going to tell
right.
you, maybe the signs of something. If someone displays these signs or they're dizzy or if their eyes are down, whatever the case may be, but it's not going to, obviously medical is going to be a different kind of realm. So there are disclaimers, but it's going to give you really, really good information.
Yeah, I love it. That's really exciting. So we call the show The Missing Piece because I believe there's so many times in our life where there was a missing piece that moved the needle for us or made a difference in our life, and also a missing piece that maybe we want to solve. I think you're solving it with OxeFit and some of the things that you're doing, but the missing piece that we want to be a part of and playing into it. So, your interpretation of the missing piece, when I say, a missing piece moment, or does anything resonate with you, Brett?
Um, missing piece, not necessarily, just the timing of things, I think could be sometimes you might missed opportunities. It's a good question. I've always kind of had Jesus as part of my life, so I would say a lot of people
Mm,
probably could be missing that. Not that I'm a preacher, but I could just tell you what's happened in my life. Uh,
mhm,
that's a good question. I'm not. I've always been very fortunate, and things have not happened on my timeline, but
mm,
I've been reasonably kind of sticking to and had some perseverance, and eventually things would fall through. I mean, I just got a call out of the blue. This is a while back, obviously, but a guy once say, "Can you be on a come and be in a movie for us?" And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, it was The Longest Yard, the Adam Sandler remake when they did the football movie." And I went out to Los Angeles for 3 months and filmed that movie. So with me, things have always worked out, but not at the time or kind of on my schedule. So just knowing that
mhm.
kind of God has a plan for you and that eventually, these missing pieces will all come together. So more timing than anything. And now I have a beautiful wife. She just wrote a devotional. She was the kind of Bible study leader for the Cowboys players and wives for about 10 years. And that was really good. And all of her experiences as a player's wife and a coach's wife, she had really good perspective. So she really enjoyed for a while. And she wrote a 30-day devotional about it, Christ Through Hazel Eyes. So I had to give her a plug.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Where
And
can
she's
we get
just the
that?
housewife that went to school for educational, or elementary education and kind of was going to maybe teach youngsters, but didn't really wind up doing Bible study and then wrote a book just out of the blue. She's not like she's an author, she did really, really well. So I think it was great. So I'm obviously biased.
I love it. Where can we get the devotional and book?
It's on
Can we get it on
Amazon.
Amazon?
Christ,
Okay,
Christ Through Hazel Eye. It was like leading like best new sellers for a while. So it's been out for about a year and a half. I
that's
think about a year and
amazing.
a half.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you're led to do something and or, I think I love nobody has ever said what's the missing piece and they say Jesus. And to me, that's my number one missing piece too. I think if
Yeah.
we have this element of surrender, that and knowing that God's got us and that
Absolutely.
Jesus wants us and we listen, then it's amazing.
100%. Yeah.
I love that.
In this world and time, there's so much division. And I mean, I guess I'll use the word hate that you know, it's
Oh,
sad. A lot of stuff that you see just in the news,
yeah.
turn on the TV or your phone. It's just in your face. That's negativity and, people that can't get along. It's heartbreaking to where, I think if a lot of people had that foundation, we wouldn't see that as much of that
Uh,
as we do.
It's just not necessary.
Yeah.
It's
People
not
have so much idle
necessary.
time, that idle time is a devil's workshop.
Yes.
It's like I wanna entertain myself. I wanna look at or do something. It's like maybe not the
Mm.
best thing. So
Yep, agreed. There's I know now we're off topic, but there's this book called by Napoleon Hill called Outwitting the Devil.
mm,
And it's an unbelievable book. He's also the Napoleon Hill is a business author, Think and Grow Rich, I think in Ink and Grow Rich, but he's a phenomenal author. And he wrote this book in the 30s. Somebody brought it out after his passing in like the 90s. And but it's an interview with the devil and if he can get you to drift, which
mhm,
means to become complacent, to not think, to be idle, to
yeah.
just go with the flow, not think for yourself, be lazy,
Well,
anything,
a
then he has you.
slow fade, because it typically can't convince you like, boom, I'm a murderer now, or I'm an adulteress, or I'm an
Right.
alcohol. It's a slow fade into something that you didn't want to become. So
Yeah.
you said drifting it's not ideal.
Drift. Right. And like you said, idle time.
Yeah.
So, one of my last questions, because your story is so inspiring, in every aspect, is for people that are listening and maybe entering a new chapter, recovering from a setback, trying to reinvent themselves. What advice, do you have for them?
I've always just been a really hard worker. I've loved kind of when it was too hot or if it was really cold, if it was raining, I would see that as my opportunity to kind of move myself to the forefront because
Mm,
everybody's, at their best when it's sunny and breezy and it's cool temperatures and everybody's fresh and maybe you're coming off of a win or, something great happened in your life. But reality is there's going to be rainy days and there's going to be early days and
mhm,
dark days and bad weather and there's going to be times where you're sore or times where I think the boss doesn't like those are times where I wanted to kind of elevate myself and kind of grit my teeth a little bit more and said this is kind of my time to shine because you know
mm,
people typically thrive when it's great conditions, but you'll find the true test of a man or person. Maybe they did lose a job, or maybe there's a death in the family, or maybe there's who knows, and family strife that we all go through. Those are the times where you really kind of got to, dig in and persevere and have the discipline to do the things that some people aren't willing to do. And that's typically my story. I was always the one who was kind of willing to stay early and, or stay late, come early, and just dig in, watch film, become kind of a master of the things that weren't in my control. Because in this world, there's so much stuff that we can't control. The things that you can control, those have to be checked, doubled, circled 100%, because the world is all about uncontrollables and, unexpected circumstances. So I would say the things that you can control, those things need to be locked tight, solid, checked off, where there's no left or right, up or down. It's dead on target. And then you have to deal with the unexpected and the uncontrollables. So that would be my advice. Whatever you can control, those things have to be 100% ironclad.
Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you and on the show. Thank you for your openness and for sharing, and your humility is just quite remarkable. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, is LinkedIn the best? I can leave it in the description after
Yeah,
the show.
yeah. I typically get, strangers. Sometimes it's people in the industries, but absolutely, yeah. LinkedIn would be a great place to start.
Thank you, Brett, for being here, and best of luck. I'm downloading the app. I hope everybody else does too, and I'm going to
Yeah,
start, being intentional.
it's pretty cool. Give it a chance. I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
Of course. Every leader has a story, and every story reveals another piece of the bigger picture. What if the missing piece wasn't something you had to find, but something you were meant to become? Subscribe, share, and keep leading with intention. I'm April Reed, and I'll see you in the next conversation on The Missing Piece.